Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. Let me know, first of all, if you can hear and see. Just give a thumbs up in the question box or in the chat box. Hi, Nathan. Let me know you're here and where you're from. And also, while we're just waiting for everybody to join, we'll get started in just a moment. If you can also type in one thing that you're hoping to get out of this today, something that is a challenge that made you say, yes, I'll join this webinar, either to Chris or Mark up in the East Coast or to Shannon around the country. So let me know what your challenges are, what your struggles are. And throughout the webinar today, for the next hour, we'll talk about the challenges that you have as therapists with safe patient handling, or if you're a safe patient handling coordinator, what are your challenges that you're looking for answers to? If you are an administrator or you're fighting for funding, for budget to try and get equipment, how can we help you make those arguments? I'm going to cover a lot of those today. This webinar is being recorded, so you will have access. We're going to share it with the distributors and also post it on the website when we're done. So that way you can go back and look at it after the fact. So yes, please keep jumping in with these, and I'll come back to them from time to time. One thing I want to make really clear on today's webinar, usually, I'm going to put my mask on now because Jim's coming in, my patient. So, hi Jim, go wave, oh, come on over, and let's have you pop into the bed. And you can put the head of the bed up to wherever you're comfortable. Just lay on it, Jim, you don't need to get in. Jim has graciously offered to come and work with us with all the different lifts today. So this is not a CEU event. Normally, when I'm used to doing presentations on safe patient handling, we are not endorsing any one piece of equipment. We are neutral for all pieces of equipment. Today's webinar, I'm going to share with you, I'm 150% biased on the tool that I'm going to share with you. Obviously, it's the Mobility Coach Pro. And I want to share with you, I'm quite a long ways from 6 feet away from Jim, so I can take my mask off right now until I go and work with him. And he is fully vaccinated as well, so I want to just reassure you of that. So why did I design the Mobility Coach Pro? Because as a physical therapist and as a safe patient handling champion in my facility, I was having a lot of rehab staff who were really resistant to using equipment because they felt that it was not helping them promote patient activity. It was making their patients more passive. Additionally, we need to promote the patient to do as much as they can. We're trying to wean them off equipment, and we're trying to get as much participation. And sometimes we may do 5 or 6 different tasks in the course of one therapy session. So we might do a rolling activity. We might see what they can do with bed, scooting up and down. What can you do for yourself? We may introduce ADLs. How much of your body can you wash? Can you reach? Can you hold the washcloth? Can you follow directions? And then we're going to try and sit them up. So that's another sling to sit them up, right? So once I'm sitting, what am I going to do next? I might look at some sitting balance, some reaching. I might look at ability to recover from a perturbation. I might look at dual tasking. Can they do a functional activity in sitting? Can they put their socks on? Can they put their pants on? Can they do up buttons, all while maintaining their balance and following directions, right? So then what about after that? If they do okay with that, we might try and stand up. And if they do well with that, we're going to try and walk. So with all of those, I've just covered about 5 different slings and different pieces of equipment. And I understood very early why therapists, PTs and OTs in particular, and maybe some kinesiotherapists on the line today, some restorative nurses, or anybody who's working with this group of people. We needed one solution. And the first step that I took in this, and if you could have seen me, if any of you are vendors on the line and you've worked with me, you know I can kind of be a pain, because I'm on the floor in the vendor booth and I'm saying, listen, I need your slings to do this. I need it to be multiple sizes, because I got so frustrated trying to get a sling, get people on board with an activity. They would finally break down. I say break down, usually I use that term very kindly. They would give in to my persistence and say, okay, Margaret, I will try the sling. If they went and got a wrong size and were frustrated because it didn't perform, I would lose them. They would be like, Margaret, I tried it, I'm not doing it again. So a multi-size, a good fitting sling was really, really important. And I also wanted something that would grow with the progression of activity or shrink, that I could decide as a therapist how passive or how active I wanted my patient to be. So that's how the Mobility Coach Pro was born. The first version of it, if any of you saw it, was a system of multiple component parts. Now that is still available, and some people do opt for that option. But what I have found is a lot of people said, can you keep all the adjustability, but make it one piece? Because we lose the other pieces, things go missing. Can you make it wipeable? Can you retain the multi-size and multi-function with these features? So that's what the Mobility Coach Pro is. And what I'm going to share with you today is how you actually do an evaluation all the way through the different components. So I'm going to cover putting on the sling. I'm going to cover documentation, billing. How do I capture every minute? Because the other thing I hear from so many therapists is, I don't have time. It takes too long to set up my patient. So what I'm going to do is show you from start to finish, from an evaluation, and please jump in with your comments, your questions. I'm going to ask Shannon if you could possibly moderate, and Chris or Mark. I'm not going to be able to see the screen real well from over with Jim. So if there are questions that you want to see, can you please unmute yourselves, like Mark, Chris, or Shannon, and let me know the questions so that I can back up and I can show you those things, okay? And also, if you cannot hear real well, my mic took a dive on me this morning. So I'm going to talk louder when I'm over there, but if you cannot hear me, please let me know, okay? All right, so how are you doing, Jim? Ready to go? Okay. My evaluation starts from the moment of looking at the order, right? It doesn't start, thank you, Shannon. It does not start when I go into the patient's room, does it? I look at the order, I look at the diagnosis, I'm looking at the patient's height, their weight, whether or not there's any precautions, weight bearing, partial, toe touch. Am I looking at any braces? Am I looking at a Cybertech brace? Am I looking at an immobilizer? So I'm already thinking up, I've got a mental picture of that patient in my brain. Then we're going to go and do chart review. So as we look at the chart, we're looking at past medical history, we're looking at comorbidities, we're looking at surgical history. We're looking at the nurse's admission assessment to see, are they moving all extremities? Were they ambulatory prior to admission? That's all feeding that overall clinical picture that we have of our patients. So as far as when do I start thinking about equipment? Think about it the same way as this. If I'm going up to the orthopedic floor because I've got an order to do gait training with a 22-year-old who fell and broke his ankle last night, went for surgery, and he's waiting to get home, and I need to go teach him stairs, I'm not going to even think about going into his room without a pair of crutches, because I know I need a pair of crutches, right? If I go into somebody who's had a total hip replacement, who's 75 years old, I know I'm going to take a walker with me. So the gait belt, the harness, It's exactly the same thing. In fact, in some of the facilities that are using this, the therapists and also some of the nurses' aides and assistants are wearing this when they go up on the units. It's totally wipeable. So they have the harness on, and what they're finding is that they like it. It's kind of like a corset, but people are asking them, what is that you're wearing? Why are you wearing that thing? It's building awareness, and the nurses are starting to wear, or they're starting to ask, hey, can I have that for my patient? Because if I want that, I could get them up. They see the therapist wearing it, so the therapists are wearing it while they're walking up and down the unit, just like I would wear my gait belt. So when do I start? I take it with me if I even think I'm going to need assistance. Just because I have it with me doesn't mean I have to use it. And just because I have it on the patient does not mean the patient is dependent. So when do I start? I go into my patient, I'm going to do my orientation stuff, my name, you check your wristband, 2 identifiers, all that stuff. We're going to assume that that's done. I'm going to, let Jim know, hey Jim, I have this in case we need it today, just to see how you can do, okay?
All right.
All right. The first time we get Jim up, he's going to be dependent, right? So Jim, you are not going to be able to do a whole lot to help me the first time, okay? So, how are you doing, Jim? Can you shake my hand? All right, super, good. We're going to try and get you up today, okay?
Okay.
Can you lift your arms up over your head? And you can do that, right? So I'm going to check his strength, just the way I would with any other EVA. All right, super. Bring it back down again. Can you, both of them? Can you bend this knee up? Now he's going to be weak on this side, so I'm going to check. Okay, can you hold it up there? Don't let me push down. Hold it. Don't let me pull away. Hold your knee up, and you're not able to. It's pretty weak. Right, so I'm doing my strength testing just like I would any other eval. But as we know, we are gathering information as we do that, and we are in our brains already predicting how they're going to stand, how they're going to walk. And some of those patients we already know, oh man, this is going to be a lot of work to try and stand them up. We know this already without even getting them up. So if I already know that, I would put the sling on at that moment. I'm going to ask him if he can turn over, right? Can you roll over towards me, Jim? Partially, but not fully. Okay, and he's not able to sit up at all. So this is a totally dependent patient. This would be a FIM of a 1 or a 2 for transfers, right? For getting out of bed. They are able to give us less than 25%. If you're looking at AMPAC scores, your AMPAC is going to be very low. It's probably going to be a 6. If you're looking at a BMAT score, you're going to be a level 1. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the harness on in supine. But I'm going to bill for every minute that I'm with the patient. So this is how I work to get around the documentation and the setup. Jim, do you see this here? This is an ambulation harness. It's going to help you get up, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to put it under your back, but I want you to help me. Can you roll towards that side for a little bit? Roll away from me. Good. Okay, so I'm going to put it in here. Jim, tell me when you feel it.
Feel it.
You feel it? Where do you feel it, Jim?
Almost.
Okay, come on back. I'm asking him, do you feel it? Where do you feel it? What am I doing? I'm doing sensory testing. I'm doing sensory evaluation. Can you accurately locate where the harness is? All right, Jim, do you feel that on your right side?
Yes.
Can you pull that out for me? Can you go ahead? Yeah, pull it out from that side of your body. Right out behind you. Awesome. What am I looking at? I'm looking at shoulder. Functional shoulder range of motion and strength. This is simulating pulling a pair of pants on and pulling them up. In supine, does he have the range of motion? Can he reach back into his pocket? So I'm measuring and evaluating this entire time. and looking at his ability to tell right from left, and looking at his ability to follow my direction. How long does it take? I'm looking at his processing time, his ability to put a sequence of activities together, right? And all of this is billable. All of it is billable. Whether it's PT or OT, it's evaluation. So now, Jim, can you reach this? You see this has buckles on it? Right? Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you find the buckles on the other side? How many buckles are there, Jim? Can you see them?
Appears to be 2.
2, okay. We've done 2 here. Okay, let's try and buckle those up. Can you try and buckle them up for me? Okay, good. See how many you can find to buckle there. A little bit too tight. Can you loosen it? So I'm going to show him how to loosen that. As he is loosening that belt and tightening it, and as he's doing those buckles up, I'm evaluating fine motor skills. I'm evaluating his finger strength, his ability to approximate. So I'm also looking at some astereognosis. I'm looking at his proprioception, his kinesthesia. All of those things I can evaluate while he's putting the sling on, and I'm simulating a functional dressing task, right? You thought there were 2, or you still think there's 2?
I found another one.
You found another one. How many are there then?
3.
3, okay. So again, I'm also looking at cognitive ability. It is always our job as the therapist, as the caregiver, to make sure that everything is tightened up and connected properly. When we are having our patients participate and help us, we need to make sure that it is properly done up. So, okay, the harness is now on. I've got one leg strap down here, but one is tucked behind his back. Jim, are you able to roll away for me a little bit? Because I've got to tuck this leg strap under. There we go. Okay, come on back. And can you find it and pull it out? Roll towards me. Yep, good. Find it and pull it. If that carabiner's caught, roll that way again for me. You got this caught in the shoulder strap. Okay, good. And back. Did you feel that, Jim? Did you feel it catching?
Yes, good.
Yeah, now pull it out for me. Now, as he's pulling it out, he's doing a partial bridge on that side. So I'm looking at functional glute strength while he's doing that. All right, now this one is going to go under your legs, okay? So this is going to, yeah, good. Nice job picking up that leg for me, Jim. So I'm going to hook this up. If you're sitting, I would have you do this. Maybe you can do the other one. Can you copy what I just did on this side, on that side? Do you remember what I did?
Paying attention, but I'll see.
Okay, good. I'm going to just make sure that it's not twisted here. Okay. Now, for the purposes of today, because I'm going back and forward to the monitor, I'm staying on this side. Generally speaking, for better body mechanics, I would go around to the other side so I'm not leaning. But just for speed today, I want to make sure I make that clear. Because even though we're using a harness, it does not mean that body mechanics are not important. Body mechanics are every bit as important as they once were. However, what we know from the literature is body mechanics are not enough to prevent therapist injuries. We know that 91% of PTs and OTs have some injury across their lifespan. And I was just recently working with a DPT faculty member, and she had got some questions from the person who teaches in the biomechanics lab in the orthopedic module, who'd said to her, well, what you're saying about injuries doesn't hold up, because we know that with wolf claw, the more you strengthen your muscles, the more you strengthen your bones, the stronger they get. And so it's good for us as therapists to work our muscles and be active, because that makes us stronger. And I said, well, yes, but what happens? Why doesn't Wolff's Law protect us against all ankle injuries? Why doesn't Wolff's Law protect us from a torn rotator cuff and a torn bicep? Because the force exceeds the ability of the body to tolerate the load. And that happens with us all the time as therapists. We are the experts in teaching our patients. I used to work in occupational health, and I treated thousands of patients with cumulative degenerative disc problems. And I would tell them, don't keep doing the thing that caused your pain in the first place. But as therapists, we need to practice what we preach. So now the harness is on. Jim's got it over here. That was not quite set up right, so I'm going to fix that. Just feed it through. Otherwise, Jim, you got it great. Now, the harness is on you. I'm going to have the lift in place just in case, Jim, okay? But I want you to do as much as you can. Can you put that arm through this strap? Yep, just like you're putting on a sleeve. Okay, good. First thing I'm going to do, even before I bring in a ceiling lift, is I'm going to raise the head of the bed and see from what angle can Chris sit up and initiate a sitting activity. So he's done this before, he's already on it. He's like, I know you're not going to do the bed for me, Margaret, I'm going to have to do it myself. Yes, he is. So I'm going to have the lift here, but I'm only going to use it if I need it. All right, Jim. So from there, are you able to sit yourself forward? Can you use the bed? Can you come forward? Okay, good. Now, if he falls back here, now I know that I'm going to need something to keep him and me safe. I'm going to lower the head of the bed just a little bit here, Jim. Bring your feet back up for me. Here's one other factor that I want to just answer for you that is a question I get from lots of therapists. Is, well, I have to know how much assistance he needs. Okay, let's look at that. Hey, Jim, can you get up here? Can you put yourself up? Can you roll over for me? Now, you're dependent, okay? You cannot help me at all. What does that look like without equipment? We're at a maximal width spread of a squat, right? Because we're trying to support the knees on our knee and coming under his shoulder and right there, right? Now, without equipment, what does that look like? We're going to bring you up, we're going to bring you around, and we're going to bring you here, right? Okay, go ahead and lay that down. And many of you are probably thinking, yes, that's exactly what we do. But we know from the first moment that that is a max assist transfer. We do not have to go all the way through the range to know that he's max assist. So he started to get up. I know he's max assist. I'm going to bring the ceiling lift in. I'm going to hook this up, Jim. Well, I think I am, but you know the scoop. What's going to happen here? You're going to help me, right?
Much as I'm able to.
There you go. So, can you take that purple strap? Good. Can you put it on? Yep, just like so. What about the other one? Put it right in this one over here, Jim. Awesome. So again, my job to make sure it's safe and secure. All right, but Jim is helping me. And I am billing every minute of it because he is doing following directions. He's got to hook one piece to another piece. He's got to approximate it. Okay, Jim, we're going up here. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Actually, let's bring the head of the bed up a little bit first. And I want you to put your hands in front of this so it doesn't hit your head, okay?
Yeah.
But now that you're out, I want you to try and work with it, okay? Ready? Okay, bring your legs around. Bring your legs around. Good. Come on up. Now, try and do it without the lift. Come on forward. Come on forward, 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 forward. Good. Now hold it there, Jim. Can you hold your balance? Okay. So right now, the lift, how do I know how much the lift is doing? These straps are pretty tight. I can let him, I can now assess how much he can do by doing two things. Right now, I lowered the lift and I loosened the straps. Right, so right now, Jim, if you go ahead and fall back, okay, he can go a little bit. If he cannot bring himself back up, hold on. I've got power to bring him back up. If I overestimate how much he can do or underestimate his ability to recover balance, it doesn't matter because he's in the lift, he's going to be safe. So I can actually do more. Now, are we happy with how Jim is sitting? No. Jim, do you feel like you're in the middle?
No.
No. Can you fix it, Jim? Can you get yourself back to the middle? Good. Okay. Beautiful. I'm going to give you a little more slack here. Can you hold yourself there? Yeah? Okay. Are you still upright?
I think so.
Okay, good. Now you are. I can actually push him a little bit. I can push him to the side. Okay, come on back. Can you reach out to my hand out here? Reach, 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 reach. Good. I don't have to worry about him losing balance because he's safe. All right? Good. Now, in this position, I can also have him do some reaching. I can have him put his socks on. I can have him do some lower body dressing. So I'm going to get a pair of flats here. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting a bigger pair of scrubs to put over the ones that he's got on. Then are you able to reach down and put these on over your feet at all? So now that he's safe, I don't have to worry about him falling off the edge of the bed. Okay, good. If he doesn't get it quite right and he loses his balance, uh-oh, what happened? Can you fix it? Can you fix it? Come on, fix it, Jim. Fix it, fix it. I may still give him verbal cues. I may still give him tactile cues. But I can now really push him to the edge of the envelope. I can know where his limits are. You don't have to bring them all the way. Well, let's do that. Let's do that. So he's pulled them up. Let's try standing again. I'm going to have him do as much as he can. Just because I've got the power, I don't have to use it. But it's there if I need it, okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just hold here, Jim. I want to see, and my hand is on the button in case I need the power, but I want to see if Jim can lean forward and stand himself up. Good. Can you stand? Can you stand? I'm going to tighten this down a little bit because that's a little slack here. You okay? Nothing's pinching you? Do you need to sort anything? Now, I always ask that, especially of my male patients. With any harness that goes between the legs, we want to make sure that they're not, not pinching. Yes, I see a question here. One moment. Shannon, are you able to read out the question? I'm not seeing it here. I'm going to just keep going. Please stop me with the questions. I'm seeing the chat, but I'm not seeing the questions, although I did see somebody's hand up. So please make sure you are asking. So Jared over here just hanging out. He kind of fell while I was talking to you. I don't know if you noticed that, right? But he's not going anywhere. So you're comfortable? If your legs do buckle, go ahead and buckle. I'm going to just show people here the support with this harness is under the ischial tuberosities. Go ahead and stand up for me, Jim. The supports on the butt, on the leg straps are movable because depending on the size, the width, the circumference of your patient, their ischial tuberosities are going to be in different places. So you can actually move those straps on this harness wider apart or closer together as you need to. All right, so now go ahead and turn around. We can check the balance while he's doing an activity of daily living. I'm billing this just like I would any other evaluation. Now look at the straps and enter into the chat box for me whether Jim is standing independently, with min assist, with mod assist, or with max assist. How much assistance does Jim have to stand up? Put it in the chat box. Let's take a vote. What do you think? A little clue is look at the straps. And am I touching him? Yep, independent. Do the slings come disposable? I'll answer that right now. No, because this is an expensive sling because it's multiple sizes, it's multiple functions, it's multiple fits. But when you purchase it, what we do is you're going to have, it's completely wipeable, first of all, but if any of these straps or loop points, it is very high quality. If there are any issues, you have a full 90-day warranty to send it back. But even after that, we would just help with a restocking fee or a fixing fee. You wouldn't have to buy the new sling. And I just got a call from somebody who bought the harness 6 years ago. And they said, Margaret, we use this every single day. And one of the straps has come loose. One of the stitching has come undone. Do we need to buy a new one? I said, send it back to me and we'll take a look. If it is worn out after 5, 6 years, you may have to buy a new one. But in that case, all the other stitching was still good. We just fixed the one loop, sent it back to her, and she's got her sling back. So again, no, it doesn't come in disposable, but it's wipeable, so you can use it from patient to patient to patient. All right, so let's take the pants off again. Now let's go to the bathroom while you're here, since you've got your pants kind of up, kind of down, okay? So let's include an ADL activity. We'll put these commands right here so you can see. And he's in the ceiling lift right now, but he could do this equally with a floor-based lift. Floor-based lifts, as you know, require somebody to actually manage the lift. So it is a little less efficient with a floor-based lift. My most preferred combination of safe patient handling tools is a ceiling lift and the multi-function harness. You can do so many things with. Yes, independent self-assistance, absolutely. So I could give him his own water. If he needed a walker. And even with the ceiling lift, I'm not going to have it power him any more than he needs to be powered. So let's imagine you're going to the bathroom. You run down this, you let them come down. Jim, where do your hands go, Jim? Where do your hands go? There you go. What about the other one? Good. Okay, now lower yourself down slowly, slowly, slowly. Good. Okay. So in this position, now the straps do come off from underneath his legs. That will work with somebody who's a little bit towards mod assist, if they have good sitting balance and if they're able to lift their legs up. If somebody is total assist for toileting, then taking the straps off is not going to be an option. But if they have a gown on, you can tuck those straps under their legs into the gown in the thigh area. And that way their perineum is free anyway, and you can still toilet with them. But if he's got the spring on top of his scrubs. All right, so we've got the bathroom. I want him to wipe himself. And you know what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch lifts. So we've seen the ceiling lift. We might come back to that for gait. But let's look at what a sit-to-stand device might look like for the bathroom. So Jim, just give me a second here. And he's safe, so I can leave him on the toilet. now we're going to bring in the powered sit to stand. So if you don't have ceiling lifts and you've got powered stand aids, let's look at what this is like. So can you move your walker away for me, Jim? All right. Have you seen one of these before? You've got a knee pad here, you're going to bring it in. Good. Now this comes with the foot plate is removable. What I'm going to do now is take this off the ceiling lift. One of the things I've had the most comments about on this harness is the adjustable ceiling shoulder straps, that you can adjust this without having to take the whole thing off the lift and setting the patient down. All right, Jim. So what I'm going to do here, you take this arm out for a second, and we're going to snug this up, because now this lift, remember how this works a little different way? Then you put this right on top of that little knob. Beautiful. Same on this side. All right, I'll hand it to you here. Hold on. Okay, can you find the little knob? Excellent. Now, it is still my job, like I said before, to make sure that he is fully engaged with the lift. And when I'm using sit to stand aids, I'm not going to let him just hang back in the sling. I'm going to tell him, just like I would without the lift, I want him pushing off the commode. All right, Jim, this is going to lift you up, so just wait just a moment. I want you to try and beat the lift, okay? So hold on just a minute. Okay, good. Come on, push up, push up, push up, push up. Then reach up here with your hands. Now, if you fall, I'm going to just take these off now so people can see. All right, so if he loses his balance, like your knees buckle and just fall completely, he's safe, right? Pick your feet right up there, Jim, for me. Get your knees up here and just pick your feet up. There you go. So his feet are all the way off the floor here. This does not ride up. He's even got the arms up. Because he's still got the leg straps through. So one of the biggest complaints I've heard about sit to stand slings is they ride up from the patient's left like this, and the sling is under their arms. So a big feature in the design of this was that you can use it with this lift and it stays under their butt, it doesn't ride up. All right, but we don't want you being passive, Jim, so go ahead and stand up for us. Feet down, up you come. Go ahead and you can wipe your own bottom, you can reach your own perineum, and he's going to be fine with that. But I don't need to worry, I don't need to be holding him here because the lift has him. So I can hand him the toilet paper, I can hand him a towel. Does this procedure require 2 people? It's going to depend on your facility policy. Some facilities will say that you always need 2 people whenever you're away from the bed. I would say it's best practice to have a second person there, because sometimes things do happen. I have had a patient pass out in one of these lifts before, where I still need help to get them out of the lift. But most of the work I can do by myself. I don't need a PT and an OT at the same time. So this is a way that I can start to build in more mobility throughout the day, because one mobility event in the morning can be me as a PT. This is my extra set of hands for muscle. And I can have a tech or a family member or a nurse's aide or somebody be doing the activity forward, you know, pulling the lift. Pulling the lift is not skill, right? I can have the patient walk in this device. Can you just walk in a little circle here for us, Jim? If his legs buckle, let's make sure you're in front of the camera. Okay, go ahead and walk over this way for me. Good, let your legs buckle again. And I can say to him, Jim, what's going on? And you're kind of out here.
Lost my balance.
Lost your balance. Can you fix it?
White shirt.
Come on, get those knees underneath you. Good. Bring those hands back here. Beautiful. So we can use this to get a bigger stride length. We can use it. I'm going to just tip this down a little so you can see his feet a little bit more. Right? So there's also parts of the lift. Let's turn it around this way, Jim. Now, can you reach that foot? I'm going to put the brakes on here. Can you step that foot outside of the bar and bring it back in again? Actually, just touch the bar. Don't go outside it. What I do want to share with you is check with your lift manufacturers, which if there are any things that you see here today, make sure they are approved by your lift manufacturer if they're not in the instructions for use manual. Most of them want to keep the weight inside the base of support of the lift, but I can have Jim reach his hand. Reach this hand up here for me, Jim. Good, and back down. And then this one over here. Good, and back down. Okay, good. Lift both your arms up. All the way up, 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 back down again. Right? Up and back down. Now, he could do this even if he was dependent. Even if, I'm going to put this on here, Jim. Step back a little bit. Step back for me. Go ahead and step back. The right one. This is easier to do without the patient in it. Okay, now step onto that, the mark there. If the patient is not yet ambulatory, but they are able to stand, you can still have them do standing balance. You can still have them work on weight shifting. You can have them stepping up and down onto their toes. You can have them taking little steps. So even a dependent patient, whether your lift is a powered standing or an overhead lift or a floor-based lift, regardless of the activity, you can work on it with this harness. Let me show you a little bit about gait training. Any questions so far, by the way? One monitor, one assist patient, one device, yes. So hopefully I've answered the question about how many people it takes. We talked about toileting. We've talked about dressing, edge of bed dressing. We've talked about sitting balance, sit to stand activities. Let's look a little bit more at sit to stand and at gait re-education. We've got about 10 minutes and then I'll take some more questions at the end. All right, Jim, step off here. Can you take this off? Unhook it. Because I also get questions, what about outpatient? What about those environments where the patients are a little bit more walkie-talkie? This is another area that I love, and it's balance and vestibular. Before I get into safe patient handling, I did a lot of complex balance and vestibular rehab. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put you back in the ceiling lift. Put this over here. Bring this back over. Take it out from here. Through your arms. And can you hook that one side up for me? Good. Other side. Okay. Can you loosen it a little? I'll loosen this one. Get this one up a little. Pull it. There we go. Because I want the hammer bar away from his head. Right? So, good. Now, he's kind of falling forward a little bit. I'm not worried about that. Normally, that would be terrible. Show them from the side, Jim. Okay. Normally, this would not be a good situation. But what can I do? What would we do in this situation in the harness? Am I going to pick him up again? Or am I going to tell him to fix it himself, right? The ability to make errors is really, really important for training adaptive responses. And that can be billed as TheraX, it can be billed as therapeutic activity, it can be billed as neuromuscular reeducation. Do I lock the hoist while lifting? I will always lock the hoist in a sit stand when I go to lift it up, yes. With a ceiling lift, it depends. A ceiling lift, I want, if I wanted to lift them vertically where they're at, then I'll let it just go. A lot of times with ceiling lifts, they will end up pulling the patient backwards. So if I want to get a sit to stand, I'll actually manually push the ceiling lift forward as I go to stand them up. If I'm working with a floor-based lift, sometimes I'll put the floor-based lift in front of them deliberately so that it lifts them up at that vector angle. And Goldman actually has a ceiling lift now that locks, that the rail will lock, and you can lock it at a distance in front of the patient to help them stand up. It's a really nice system. But Jim, yeah, you're obviously comfortable in that because you're just kind of hanging out in it. I'm going to Jim do something he does not very much like, and this is something that I wish I had a ceiling lift when I worked in outpatient, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him stand on a BOSU disc. All right, Jim, do you remember when we did this before? All right, I'm going to stand up. Good. And his ankle balance is not great. He's kind of hanging out there. Can you fix it? Can you find your balance on that disc, Jim? Now, this truly is challenging for Jim, right? He's not acting like that. This is a challenge. But you can start doing this early with some of your vestibular patients, some of your athletes, that you want to get them on unstable surfaces more earlier in their therapy. Beautiful. Okay, come on back off of it again. Super. Now let's also look at narrow gait, Romberg gait. So what I want you to do now, Jim, is I want you to walk with your feet in a line like this. So we can start looking at sharpened Romberg. Now I can also let him work on this. I don't have to be right by him. So if he's struggling, I can say, Jim, I want you to work on that until you can do 10 in a row. Let's see, does the patient with head or spine injury, can they be handled? Sling doesn't support patient back. So in the UMCS, it's a system of slings. Today we just showed you the Pro, but you'll see here, and then I can turn around, all these loops on the harness. If you have a patient that needs more upper body support, then you can add additional straps across the back that are going to give them more support. If somebody is completely dependent and doesn't even have head control, then my recommendation is that you don't, obviously we're not walking those patients, but you could use a harness to support their sitting trunk and then work on their head control in a sitting position. If you've got somebody with ALS or multiple sclerosis where the harness can give them the support where they need it, you can add more support with other things. You have, and then of course, we've got our manual support that we can give them as well. If I didn't answer your question or understand what you were asking, please ask it a different way, let me know. Okay, let's look at one more thing. Let's look at bed to chair transfers, because this is another area where this can be really helpful, or getting up off the floor. So Jim, let's have a seat on let's start from the bed here. Now, I'm going to give you the controller. Can you sit yourself down here? I will very often give the patient the controller if they're cognitively able to help. If I assess that and I know they're safe, the empowerment that it gives patients to be in control, it seems like a little thing, but it is not little. It's a really important factor. So what I'm going to have you do, I'm going to take the controller this time, Jim, because I want to bring this lip over here. What I want you to do is we're going to transfer over to this wheelchair. Let me make sure I get the transfer board. Hold on. Okay. So can you lean to that side for me? Yep, get the weight off your bottom here. Good. Okay, and come on back. Good. All right. Can you bring your hand over here? Now, I'm going to be right in your way if I go where I would normally go, because normally I would be here, right? Supporting him coming around. But I want you to see how he's going to do this. And if he loses his balance, it's not a problem. A lot of times with wheelchair transfers, patients do not bring their weight far enough forward to clear their butt. So with the harness, we can actually encourage that. So can I go this forward a little bit? Okay. Can you feel your butt clearing a little bit? Now don't put your fingers underneath the board. There you go. Can you scoot your bottom onto the board a little bit? Good. Now slide right off all the way through. Good. Okay. So that was an easy transfer because he was going downhill. But we're going to do the same going back up. Okay, this one you're going to have to work a little harder. I'm going to pull this forward and cue him to clear his butt. All right, come on, your butt up, butt up. There you go. Forward, forward, forward. Good. Now, if you go too far forward, look what happens. Try and fall forward. Right, the shoulder straps are going to catch him. So now I've removed that fear of falling onto his face. And now he's going to work with me much more. So scoot yourself across, find the board, get your bottom back onto it, Jim. Good, little by little, inch yourself back up onto the bed. Beautiful. Okay, do you want to come back down to the wheelchair? That one's easier because you can just slide. Okay, good. Take the board out. So in the outpatient facility, if you're in a spinal cord injury clinic or you are working, let's see, okay, great. If they have lower, hold on just a moment. If they have lower strength, body meaning lower trunk and weakness in the upper body, how are we going to assist mobility? Okay, so if they have decent strength in the lower body, but their upper body is weak, you can still, because remember, the upper body is sitting on a column on the pelvis. All of our stability for our upper body comes from pelvic stability. So if I've got skeletal support of the pelvis, now what I can do is work on the upper body. So we're going to go into a kneeling position, Jim. Let me get a mat here to put on the floor. Okay, so let's go into a kneeling position and we're going to face the bed, okay? So put down on your knees. Okay, and I'm going to give you a little bit more support. You good? Do you need to tighten anything?
Nope, not sure.
So in this position here, I love high kneeling as a position to isolate some of the upper body. And you can see here, his lower body is supported. I can use a ball, I can use a wheelchair in front of him, a stool. I can use the commode for right now. So I can have him reaching for things. I can loosen the straps a little bit. Okay, now you're pretty dependent there because these straps are super tight. I'm coming up here, Jim. Up, up, up. Okay, now hold it there. Hold it there. Don't let me push you around. Don't let me push you. Hold it. Hold it. Good. Take this hand and put it on top of your head. Good, bring it over here, push it over here. I can then control how much his upper body is working or is supported, because the weight that I have to lift is the pelvis, the core, the trunk. This is where the weight is. If I offload that weight, my ability to work with the upper body is much better. I can also work in 4 points. So go ahead, Jim, and come down your hands and your knees. Put your hands over here front. And bring your knees around so you're kind of straight on here. Good. So if I put him in hands and knees and he peters out to his hamstrings cramp up or anything like that, then I can just power him back up. But I love this position for scapular loading, for upper body work. All right, Jim, hold it there. Don't let me move you. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Good, hold it. Now, if he's winging in the scapula here, I can observe that. I can feel that. I can see if his muscle activation is symmetrical. I want you to lift this arm out here. Hold, yeah, punch me, punch me, punch me. Right over here, good. Other hand, good. Other hand, good. Alternate, 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 alternate. Now, if he's exhausted and he just falls down, he's not going anywhere. If he's too tired to do any more, I can power him back up. But I can stabilize upper body and work his lower body. I can stabilize lower, work his upper. And so there's a lot more that I can do. I can still use balls and peanuts and all the things that we currently use. We can still use all those. But if Jim is totally puckered out and he's just exhausted and he's got nothing more to give me, I'm going to just power him up and back into his wheelchair. And you'll see here now he's completely dependent. All right, Jim, let's get you back into bed. You did a bit too much, huh? So that way, like I said, I don't have to do any lifting. And whatever I want to get him to do, I can isolate the spots that I want him to work with. Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left. I wanted to just touch on, let's see, can you get the patient from the floor using the ceiling hoist? Yes, hopefully you just saw that, but it can go all the way down to the floor if a patient has fallen as well. Carryover for nursing. Initially, this tool was designed for therapists. But what I have learned from those that have been using it is that the nurses are seeing that it's really not very complicated to put it on the patient, and the patients find it comfortable. So once the patients are up, then they want to use it, and the nurses are increasingly asking for it. What is the weight capacity? Well, I have some exciting news to share with you today, because I'm going to share this video. I just got this from the testing facility. People keep asking me, when are you going to do a bariatric version, Margaret? And I've got testing being done right now. So I'm going to put this up in front of the camera, and you are the first to see this. This is very exciting.
Matt, what did we reach? 1,150 pounds?
We reached 1,100 pounds.
1,100 pounds. Okay. Matt, I think we just let it sit.
Okay, so what you just saw is a test with 1,100 pounds with 2 of these harnesses hooked together. We're developing what we call a converter kit that for a bariatric patient, you can use it and hook 2 together. So the regular slings you use with everybody, you can hook 2 together to use for a bariatric patient. And they left it for 20 minutes. It passed the ISO standard. So what that means is with 1,100 pounds of test force, we can, let's do the math, that will take it to 700 pound capacity for safe working load. So that is very, very exciting. So that will be coming soon in terms of the IFU and getting in front of some of the patients to check for comfort at that weight level. And yes, the same sling can be used for pediatrics. So you'll see on the website, it will go all the way down to like 4-year-old with one of the slings. In fact, let's take it off here, Jim, and I'll show people how little it will go. And that's really the value of this, is that and I'm never going to say one will do all, but for most of your mobility activities, for most of your patient sizes, this solution will work for them. And so, yeah, that's the good news. Just step right in it. Oh, hold on, it's around the chair. Okay, thank you, Jim. Come here, I'll set Jim if you want to go get changed. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Jim is a great sport. He lets us manhandle him all the way over. Now, question, will we have bigger pads for patients in the bariatric for lower extremities? Well, the feedback that I have had from our bariatric patients is that a lot of the sling manufacturers do try and put bigger pads, but as long as the pads are supporting the weight under the ischial tuberosities, what we find with those patients is they already have a lot of tissue and body mass with their legs rubbing together. And big, thick pads just get in the way and make it more uncomfortable. So what I've learned from them is that actually a smaller pad correctly placed, take this off now because Jim's going to get changed, is more comfortable than having a bigger pad. And you can see that this same sling is going to go all the way down to this size because it's collapsible in the back. And so your same sling will go to a pediatric patient all the way up to now 750 pounds. That is very, very exciting for me today. What do we recommend for disinfecting? So I've had some pretty stringent infection prevention nurses look at this product. And because everything is wipeable, the foam is closed cell foam, the fabric is nylon, there's no Velcro on it, so, and even the threads are nylon. So any hospital approved disinfectant you can use on the harness. I do recommend a spray rather than a wipe, because a spray gets into, there's a lot of nooks and crannies in it. And I just feel more confident that a spray is going to get in everywhere. I have had people say that they really like how quickly it dries, just again, because nothing absorbs on it. If it does get visibly soiled, or if you have contact precautions, COVID patients, you can launder it up to 167 degrees. So it is not recommended to put it in a warm dryer. The independent manufacturer that does all my testing, they actually washed and dried it 10 times. One of the times they did put it in a tumble dryer, a warm heated dryer, to see what happened. And they said that it did shrink a little bit, but when they washed it again and let it air dry, it returned to its normal size. So that was quite exciting. Is it recommended using ceiling hoist more easily in terms of using mobile hoist? As far as a safe working load, the ceiling lifts tend to have a higher capacity than your floor-based lifts. Ceiling lifts are my favorite, just because you don't have a mast and a boom getting in the way. So everything I showed you today, you can do with a floor-based lift as well. And floor-based lifts will get you access for places that you can't go with a ceiling lift. The other day, one of my neighbors fell in his driveway and they couldn't get him up. And I said, you know what? I have a lift that can get him up. So off I went across the road with my lift, and we got him back up again and sat him back up in a chair. But a ceiling lift obviously wouldn't have gone there because it's hooked to the ceiling. So yes, whatever your lift is, if you've got a lift that is a lower capacity than the sling, you're always going to choose the lower capacity of the two. If you've got a 300-pound sling and a 400-pound lift, the sling is your limiting factor. So hopefully that answers that question. I've also had some people where they use two motors. They've got one floor-based lift and one ceiling lift. And especially for supporting limbs or doing turning, PANAS support, things like that, if you've got a lot of different things going on, you can use a second lift. So, and some of the ceiling lifts have double motors on them anyway. I know we're up against the hour. I have about 10 more minutes. If you have more questions, or you can follow up, like I said, this is being recorded and will be available if you want to come back and watch it again. Any other questions right now? Can you explain nursing use and carryover? Yes, I can. So for those of you who are still on, a big challenge we face as therapists is even when we are in working with patients, often if they're not getting up with nursing between our sessions, we come back, especially if it's a Friday and they don't get up a whole lot over the weekend, we come back in on the Monday and the patient has gone backwards. So what I have found with early mobility programs and having tools that everybody can use and use appropriately to get patients doing more is that the patients retain more of what we do with them. And it's easy for us to show the therapists or show the nurses to say, listen, when you use the ambulation harness, when you go to get them up, instead of using a powered sit to stand where they just lean back and don't do anything, put the ambulation harness on them. Have them take some steps. Have them actually do a little bit more. So yes, good question about carryover. The ease of getting this on the patient. So yes, it is very easy. Now, if the patient is soiled and very large and very dependent, then obviously, like anything else, it's difficult to put on the patient. But what I use with this, because it's a small area, is I use the friction reducing devices, and I use those to feed it underneath their back. And you've got a natural lordosis under your lumbar spine anyway, so you can use that natural lordosis. And like I said, I am always having the patient participate to the maximum, and I bill every minute that I'm doing that setup because I involve them in the setup. Yes, mobile floor-based lifts are heavy to maneuver, and that's another reason why I prefer ceiling lifts. Ceiling lifts are so much more you can do with them. You're just limited on where you can do it. If you're looking at budgeting and you're looking at, yes, I love this, I want this, but we don't have the budget for it. Track how many times you do a co-treat for muscle. Not a co-treat for brains, but a co-treat for muscle. Because every time you do a PT-OT co-treat and you are not necessarily using the unique skill set of the PT and the OT, you could be doing twice as much mobility with the staffing that you have. And that patient could then get PT in one session, OT in a separate session, and they are getting twice as much therapy, twice as much mobility throughout the course of a day. So look at the injuries as part of it, but look at how much you can do with your patient. And what I have found over and over and over again is that once the patient feels secure, once the patient feels safe, they will participate and they will push themselves further. And I can still have them in the harness and just have the straps loose. And they've got that psychological safety net. Now, at some point, we're still going to take that away, because at some point, we've got to get them off of the equipment, just like we get them off of us when we're the manual equipment, right? They're not going to be able to take us home with them any more than they can take the equipment home. So we are still going to wean them off it, but it allows them to see what they can safely do and also what they cannot safely do. If you've got a patient who's got very much impaired judgment, and they think that they can walk home and they're ready to be discharged and they don't need therapy and they don't need this, you can show them exactly why they need therapy, because you can allow them to fall. Put them in a harness and say, show me that you can be independent with stairs. Show me that you can be independent getting up and down. Show me that you can get off the floor by yourself. This is a great way to show patients exactly what they can do, regardless of the motivation for it. Okay, great questions. Anything else? Was this helpful? Again, as we're wrapping up here, let me know if there was one thing that jumped out at you today that you really liked about it, or one thing that you're still like, okay, Margaret, that's fine, but what about this? Because that's what I also want to know, is where is it not meeting your needs? What needs to be done better? And how can we support you in your role, in your moving forward? It's, for me, you can tell I'm a total geek for it. I have just seen over and over and over again how many patients are just ecstatic that they can do more and they are safe doing it. Yes, absolutely. Train your new staff as train the trainer. Yes, yes, yes. And I am always happy to help train. If you have questions, if you have caregivers, you need some additional support, I'm passionate about helping you be successful, because I've seen what it can do for patients' lives, and I don't want us as therapists to get hurt doing that, and too many of us are. Okay. Reusable stuff, you have problems? Yes. Thank you for your input, Alison. Reusable is always a challenge, but wipeable is definitely advantage to launderable. If you don't have internal laundry, or you don't have a good handle on your laundry processes, yes, reusable can be a challenge. But hopefully the wipeable makes that appealing to you. The brand of the multifunction sling, it is the Inspire Outcomes Mobility Coach Pro. And if you, I know if you're up on the East Coast, if you came to the webinar today through Craigmile Health Solutions, Chris or Mark, reach out to them. If you were brought to the webinar today through Shannon, reach out to Shannon and they can get that for you. Basic standard you recommend for teaching and best practices in clinical area. Ines, that's almost another whole hour, and I would be very happy to put on an additional webinar. In fact, through Inspire and earlymobility.com, I'm looking at what people need and want in terms of webinars, what's helpful. So that could be a great one, is what is a basic standard for sustainable teaching methods? If that would be a webinar of interest, give me a thumbs up there and we'll plan that and let you know when that will be. I'm also going to be doing another webinar for the Association of Safe Patient Handling Professionals in the fall. I think it's going to be September or October, on challenging patients and how do you do safe patient handling and early mobility in the ICU, with some challenging lines, tubes, drains, chest tubes, ventilators. So that's something that to look for as well. And if you have specific questions around that, reach out and we will get those answered for you. Thank you, Ines. I appreciate that. And thank you all for your time today. I'm just heading off as soon as this webinar is done, I'm heading out to a prosthetic clinic that I am working with in Bay City, that they have my harness, and they've got some double amputee patients coming in this afternoon that they want to show me what they've been able to do in terms of stair training and gait speed and 6-minute walk test, 5 times sit to stand with their amputee patients. So that's pretty exciting as well. As you move forward, I am here to help every step of the way. So appreciate all the comments and enjoy your weekend.